Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzle show. Yeah.
Hey everyone, before we begin this week's episode of the Matthew and Rizzle Show, just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Proof of Beauty. Proof of Beauty is an experimental digital experience studio. The blockchain is their canvas and the tokens are their brush. You can learn more about Proof of Beauty by checking out pob.studio. You can follow them on Twitter as well at PRRF Beauty. That's PRRF Beauty on Twitter and pob.studio on their homepage to learn more about their projects like Hash, London, and Publico. Thank you and enjoy the show.
Okay, well, this is going to be a fun one. We're coming full circle for folks that have been following Rizzle and myself for years and years since the Cent days, but super honored to welcome Rizzle to the Matthew and Rizzle show. What's up, dude?
What's up, dude? Hey, thank you for having me, I guess.
What's up, world? All the good stuff. Man, we have a lot to talk about. You have a big project set to launch pretty soon over on the Art Blocks platform. But before we get into that, man, I kind of want to do a deep dive into our past, our history. I feel like a lot of people don't know how long we've been friends, how we even met, like what transpired between now and like that deep past of the OG years. So man, like,
cool.
Yeah. Let folks know the history. Take them back.
Dude, so this is all part of my long play to help use you as a platform for me to launch my dope project that I've been planning for years. No, I mean, honestly, we sort of hit it off like back in the old Cent days. You were doing a lot of like community spotlights. I thought the Cent community back in the day was like really cool. And had sort of like, it was, sort of a gamified social media platform that I was sort of working and had worked my way to the top of for like a long time. To the point where I guess it was unavoidable, Matt, like you had to inevitably interview me at some point to figure out like what the hell I was doing. And then I feel like we just hit it off, man. And then I came up with the idea of like reverse interviewing you as like the main interviewer back then. And so I interviewed you, and then we just sort of decided to start interviewing other people together eventually, although it didn't really start like that, right? It sort of just started off like you and I bullshitting on the podcast about whatever was going on Cent and NFT days. And that's probably how we like really got to know each other, man. And obviously, like we've done projects together ever since then. It's crazy that, dude. If nothing else, I was just telling my wife, man. I'm like, dude, Matt and I are fucking consistent as shit. Like, right? Yeah. There's like one personality trait that you and I like really share together. It's that like we just decided we were gonna like do some things together and like haven't really missed a beat in like years.
We just haven't stopped, and we like keep layering on to the things that we're doing together. I can't say it enough how dope it is to have someone like you that just like, no matter what, like I know Rizzle's ride or die, and it's like, all right, let's figure out what exactly we're going to be doing. And it's so dope. And I feel like the more people like are aware that they can find their Rizzle in the metaverse or their Matthew, whatever, like the metaverse is just going to get so much better. Yeah, honestly.
It's been fun, man. Dude, so this is exciting, man. This is like you've been around for like pretty much everything that I've done within the NFT space, which has been like a lot of different things. But most of them haven't really been like my own project. Probably the closest thing to that was the Metalympics, which was like largely my like very own concept that I like, you know, put together from start to finish and executed and everything. But that wasn't actually like an NFT. That was like sort of an event. So this is like my first actual like NFT project within the space. Which, dude, as a side point or whatever, I'd forgotten when I was going down this rabbit hole of like getting marble cards signed by people that you actually had like an NFT drop a long, long time ago, talking about the whip, you know, our project and some of the times back in Cent and everything. And that was like a couple of years ago now, I think.
Yeah, that was literally just a couple months shy of 2 years ago. Just thinking about like where the whip could go. I wrote a story. And then we used the logo that Trippy Yogi created, and I just minted a bunch of, the tokenized stories, essentially. Tucked in the different chapters into the different NFTs. People that seeded me back in the day on Cent, they got the NFT drop, essentially, is how I worked it out. But yeah, like,
I mean, that NFT drop, people are sleeping on.
Yeah, I mean, people are going to do the historical, archaeological NFT digs. It'll come up one day, maybe. Who knows? But I mean, you've been doing the damn thing for a minute. I mean, your first professional venture into the NFT space, like after being on Cent for a minute, was NFT 42. Was Token Smart, right?
Yeah. Was really Avastar's, like, prior to all that. That was what, like, you know, convinced me to join forces with Jim and NFT 42. I believed in the on-chain mantra of Avastars that, like, in theory, that's the way that we all want our NFTs to be built, is like, you know, fully on-chain and not knocking IPFS, but, you know, if you can have all your thing in one place, you want all your thing in one place. So I believed in that, convinced Jim to pull me on board and co-found that company, and feel good about it, man. I feel, you know, Avastars isn't one of these like projects that has, you know, hit the moon in terms of their pricing, but I feel good having, you know, sort of staked my thing in the ground or whatever, like on a project that I feel like does have some historical relevance within the space, and like, you know, push the conversation forward and like push the needle forward in terms of like, you know, the quality of tokens that we're putting out there. So yeah, man, that was my first like big foray into the NFT space. I like left my previous career and everything and went full-time NFT 42. And with that eventually came Token Smart and the Metalympics, Nameless, which is the primary focus of them now. Since I left, they took on like a ton of funding to build out that API. So they're still doing big things over there while I'm off on my own doing weird side projects with you and launching my own thing that we're going to talk about right here.
Yeah, man. I mean, like the whip as well, like co-founding that with me basically, right?
Yep.
You're almost 2 years, almost to the day since you joined and brought in Jim at the time to kind of like elevate it and bring sound, number one, to the whip. Kind of crazy to think back on, but I'm curious, man. So you've been involved in obviously Avastars, NFT 42, all the subsidiary projects they had cooking up. On the whip, like we've just seen so many different projects come through the door, being in the space for years and years and years. Like we've seen projects come, go, moonshot, kind of crash and burn, like all these lessons learned on your end. I'm curious now that you're about to kind of jump off on your own, do your own like Rizzle project with the folks that you've been building it with. Like before we get into the specifics of the new project, before we even name it, like I want you to talk some shit. Like everything that you've seen up until now, like talk some shit and then talk about like what actually has worked outside of the on-chain gang, that whole meme that NFT 42, Jim and crew helped propagate throughout the metaverse. Curious, man. Spit that fire. Get spicy.
Yeah, dude, I actually came up with the on-chain gang. That was my, you could dig up the historical tweet where I first put it out or whatever. So, and so my project sort of like follows along those lines. Dude, I feel like it's hard to talk shit, man, on the whip or like any of the guests that have come across our stage. And I say that honestly because I feel like, especially early on, man, it was sort of like a leap of faith to even like try and do this thing with us. There was like a good chance that it wouldn't even like work or that like, you know, shit would break or whatever. And, you know, I do we've had our fair share of like really incredible historical projects come across our stage. We've had our fair share of like really random, forgettable projects that have come across our stage. But I don't know, man. I mean, you and I have done the whip forever as sort of like our like labor of love. I think a lot of people don't realize that we don't get paid or like aren't making money off of the whip, and that we've like genuinely just been doing this for fun for like a long time now. And in that like same spirit, man, I appreciate our guests who are willing to hop on stage, because I mean, you know, we talk like a little bit shit at the same time. You know, I'm in the chat box, you know, sort of, you know, running my mouth a little bit, good natured, but like, you know, we got some like trolls, you know, just sort of, you know, making some snarky comments, shows like, you never really know when he's going to hit you with like a, you know, a fireball question or whatever. So, I feel like we've done a good job of like cultivating this cool community that has like a little bit of edge to it, that you know, you show up, you got to be willing to sort of roll with it. But I don't know, man. I mean, a lot of time lately I've been spent trying to just sort of like acclimatize myself to like, this is the new NFT space now, where like junk is just constantly getting churned out, like the like agonizing like corporate shills and like, you know, celebrity shills are going to be out here like promoting their empty projects. And I, again, man, feel like we've done a pretty good job of like avoiding a lot of those like situations, and like, you know, trying to at least bring on community members or like projects that are at least doing or attempting to do something like cool or interesting, or whatever. So I don't know, man, it's hard to talk shit, but there's definitely like a lot of stuff that's like more interesting to me than others. Otherwise I'm just sort of like, you know, running my mouth in the chat box or whatever. Dude, I would love to hear like, we didn't plan this conversation for anyone listening. We're just sort of like rolling here. So dude, I would love to hear like your take on like, you know, the past couple of years and the guests who have come across our stage and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I share a lot of what you're seeing, like present day, right? There's a whole lot of shit that's churning out. Honestly, there's so many projects and so much bit like positive and negative that it's hard to keep up with anything. Like even like the $70 million Pixelmon rug, I had never heard of it until it dropped, and Kevin's like weird googly eyes are like all memeified and everything right now. Never heard of it. Not even interested too much in the whole collectible space. Sort of waiting right now for that new stuff to come out. I don't know if that's going to be NFT powered, NFT adjacent, but I mean, being in the space as long as we have, like you see these different waves that come and go, right? Like if at first it's all about just holding Bitcoin or Ether, right? Then the next wave was ICOs, the ICO boom. And then after that, it was like DeFi summer coming. Like all the while NFTs are kind of like cooking and waiting for the moment. And then we blew up the beginning of last year, like in a major global, like permeating the social fabric of every society, right? It's just absolutely massive. But now what people have been doing with NFTs for the most part, what had the biggest moment as of late, all these collectible PFP projects that are just kind of copycatting one another right now and circle jerking everyone off. And it's just like, okay, we need another wave to come through to kind of cleanse the space of all the bullshit that's accumulated, but then also to bring that new wave of folks into the space that kind of take all the tools that have been created, hit up all the different ecosystems that have honestly formed and have been doing great work to add even more value, new perspective, and take things to a different level and bring us insights and ideas that we haven't even thought of up until this point. So I'm really oriented to the future more than looking back at the past, but always love thinking about just how things have moved and using that kind of like rough framework to expect something to come down the line soon. And honestly, that's what the whip's here for, trying to get some of that new on stage so we get an early glimpse, we get all these alpha leaks before other folks. That's where I'm at, man. Does that make sense?
Yeah, dude. You'll have to get me on to alpha leak this, dude. So this is like a good unplanned segue, man, or maybe planned. You did a nice job there, because I feel like that's honestly something I like am trying to achieve with this project. Like I really have attempted to make, for better or for worse, man. We'll see if this was like turns out to be a good idea or not. But I really wanted to make something that I really wanted, and maybe that's like my subconscious shout out to Jim, because I feel like that's why he like really built Avastars. He saw something like a gap or like a path forward that he felt was important to him, what made sense, and just sort of went for it. And so that's sort of like the direction I'm going with this, man. I feel like I've seen like the landscape pretty big. I know what I want in like an NFT drop. And so I built a thing, man, and I didn't, but I managed to find the people to build the thing and put all the pieces together. So I did something.
All right, dude. So tell us what the thing is. Give us the damn name. Unpack it. What's it going to be? When's it coming? And then whether it's filling a gap or trotting a new path into the unknown future. Unpack that part of it too.
Okay, so let me back up. So like a long time, almost a year ago, I had this concept. And so there's a few things, you could call them, within this space that I'm like extremely passionate about. If you've like followed me long enough, it's probably not like super surprising, but I'm obviously like very passionate about the metaverse, decentralization, interoperability. And then of course, like the whole on-chain gang mantra, like fits very well with like what I've always done. And so I had this concept a long time ago called the on-chain chain, right? Which is like a big, like Flava Flav style, like chain that your avatar can wear. But it's like 100% built on chain, hence the name on-chain chain. But I also like, one of the things that I really hate about the burgeoning metaverse, even across Web3, is I feel like a lot of these platforms are very siloed. Like you can't take one thing from like one place to another, which I feel like is weird, man. Like the whole community and space has always like preached this like narrative of interoperability being like, part of the path forward, but nobody's really trying to take a stab at doing a whole lot of interoperable stuff. I say nobody, and obviously that's like a mass generalization. I know Jin is a huge proponent of that as well. And so I wanted to make, and also, dude, honestly, like, because I'm like sort of cheap, like I want to buy like one thing that works everywhere and not have to buy like a different chain, for example, that works in every single different place or whatever. So I wanted to create like a really cool on-chain chain that people could wear, like people could have one thing. So you could like wear it in Sandbox, and if people saw a completely different avatar wearing the exact same chain in CryptoVoxels, it would be like recognizable, both as like an on-chain chain, being like fully on-chain and interoperable, but also like it being unique to that person. And so this was like sort of like my wacky concept that I had on the back burner for a long time. And I actually approached, so I left NFT 42 and still had this idea in the back of my head, because I was like, especially being at the whip every week, man, that's like a perfect example of like an environment. It's like, we do something in CryptoVoxels, but my dude looks totally different in CryptoVoxels than it does in Sandbox, than it does in Decentraland, than it does in, all these different places. So I want some stuff that I could take everywhere without having to like, buy separate things each time. So that's sort of where it came from, man. I approached Snowfro with the idea of art blocks. For people who aren't familiar with art blocks, it's like a generative art platform that everything they do is 100% on chain. So that to me seemed like a good fit to create this thing. So I kicked him the idea. He thought the idea was dope. Something like that hasn't really been done on art blocks before in terms of like generative wearables. So he found me Sebi, who's a developer who did Stina's drop on art blocks, and like Unigrids and Crypto Venetians and Crypto New Yorkers, and like a whole bunch of other like OG art blocks projects. So
Yeah.
Sebi figured out how to do whatever you need to do on the back end of things to make like randomly generated voxel wearables. And then I got Miguel Garest, who's one of my favorite artists, who does a lot of like cute, funny like characters to do the vox art for it. And so it's been like 8 months in the making, man, and just sort of going back and forth and talking about drawings and concepts and naming these things and putting all the pieces together so it actually like churns out okay. And it should be cool, man. All three of us are really excited about the way it came out. It's very different than like anything that I'm aware of that's been released on art blocks. To my knowledge, I don't know that anyone is doing like generative wearables at all. You can never say like the first anything, but I don't know, man. I feel like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anyone else doing this. It's something that we've been waiting for a long time. I think the first time we maybe even talked about like this rough concept before you started like pursuing this a year ago was when we had the Booleanix team on, and they were talking about they can infuse any digital asset with gold, right?
Yeah.
And then we're like, yo, how fucking dope would it be cool to have like a digital Rolex with like actual gold associated with it? And like you're making that shit a reality in like the next couple of weeks, right?
Dude, sort of, right? I was like joking around with my wife. I was like, I'm like a high-end fashion designer now. Like, like the narrative that I would have never seen like coming for myself in like a billion years. But that is sort of the goal, right? Is like that this is like, in terms of wearables, a lot of the wearables, not knocking anything at all, man, but like a lot of them are made on Polygon with like good reason for like minting costs. But like, trying to do like a really like high end, useful run of like really durable, well built, accessories for the metaverse, I think is like a cool concept. We did it all in like Vox model style on purpose, much like Larva Labs did the Meebits in a similar style, so that the barrier to being able to take it cross-platform is extremely low. If we were to do something like super, super high resolution, it wouldn't like obviously translate very well into something like CryptoVoxels or like say Minecraft or, Sandbox or any of these like, pixelated universes. And so, so I don't know how people feel about wearing like a pixelated thing in like a high res environment, but it makes more sense to have one thing built with Vox models that looks the same everywhere, rather than build a super high res thing that then you've got to make like different iterations of that looks different anywhere. I think we just make Vox models like really stylish in like high res environments. I think that's the play with the on-chain chain.
100%. And then like, well, I'm kind of curious just because I haven't made a generative wearable project or any generative project for that matter. And like Art Blocks has been one of these platforms that I think everyone really looks to, and they're really blazing a path when it comes to generative art. Just kind of curious if you can unpack what that process was like for you. I mean, you've been working on this 8 months, you got your team together, but like, so you get the team together and then what happens? How do you interact with Art Blocks? How does a project like this get accepted? How do you pitch it? Like, unpack all that stuff.
Dude, exactly how you would want it to happen, honestly. Like Art Blocks is so refreshingly Web3, like their whole like demeanor and way of doing things is like very Web3. I mean, knowing Snowfro certainly helped because he was able to, sort of obviously introduce me to the developer and, give me a heads up on how things worked and everything. But it was super easy, man. Like once our project was essentially given the thumbs up to go, in terms of like the concept and everything, there wasn't a whole lot of anything to do until the very end right here when we had the finished product. So a lot of the time in between then and now was Sebi trying to code this thing properly so that, the generative wearables actually like come out looking properly, and Miguel doing the art. and, making sure everything layered on top of each other. And so I was sort of project managing the thing, after the initial concept, after everyone sort of grasped the initial concept, a lot of it had been out of my hands, other than just saying like, yeah, I like the direction we're going, or like, maybe we should tweak this, or like, this is more what I had in mind type of thing. But it's been a blast, man. I mean, they're like, working with them is like working with you. Everyone is excited about the project. So it's like, it's not like, and we're just like chopping up the money like 3 ways. A significant portion will get donated to charity per like Art Blocks' thing, but it's not like, I hired them or anything like that. We're just, this is just like a true group project that all 3 of us thought was like really cool and fun to work on, and just took a long ass time because not a lot of people have explored this territory before. And so now we're sort of in like this, holding pattern where, we present the project to the committee. Snowfro has wisely like passed the baton on to, I don't even know how it works. There's some sort of like DAO or like committee set up that like decides where your Art Blocks project gets funneled in the various like pockets of Art Blocks, and how it gets, launched and everything. So at the time of recording now, like, we submitted some light paperwork, tested the thing on testnet. It churned out the on-chain chains looking dope. And now we wait. By the time I would guess this podcast gets dropped, we'll probably have like a launch date or something. But right now we probably got to wait a week to hear back from them. But it's been awesome, man. I mean, Snowfro is, working with him is exactly like hanging out with him on the podcast. It's not like he changes demeanors or whatever. So it's been fun, man.
Dude, well, I can't wait to get my hands on this and put it on like my CyberKong VX beanie figure that already has a gold chain. I can't wait to be the first person to rock 2 chains in Metaverse. It's going to be amazing. But talk a little bit about wearables in the Metaverse. I mean, I don't think there's anyone that's done more to clothe the Metaverse than you or me, or the Whip for that matter. Talk about why wearable accessories are interesting in the first place.
Dude, I'm amazed that more attention hasn't been paid to it, to be completely honest with you. And I wonder if part of it is that like CryptoVoxels, I think from like, a outside gamer's perspective is like maybe just too like rudimentary or like crude, like graphics wise or something. But the like potential for, expression of like individuality and like creating your own designs and like expressing yourself in the Metaverse is just like is so amazing and has always been such an amazing part of our like virtual events. And I mean, it's not like a big leap to take. I mean, the classic example is like Fortnite skins, right? Or like anything from like any of these video games. Like people pay like a fortune for these things, and they're like mostly like cookie cutter ones, right? Like some are like rare or like more rare than others, or desirable in one way or another. But I feel like as time goes on, like people will become more and more interested in expressing themselves in like different ways within the Metaverse through their own style. And that's something that I wanted to tap into with this, because I feel like, when you for example, like Skinny just sent out like a whole bunch of wearables and they're fucking cool. And honestly, like skulls like aren't really my motif, like generally, but I love Skinny. He's like, my buddy from back in the day. I'd love to like rock one of those things. And by like wearing one of his like wearables, it says something beyond just like wearing a skull thing, or at least to me personally and people who know Skinny, right? It sort of says like I'm a supporter of Skinny more than I'm trying to portray like I love skulls. Or something like that. And that's sort of what I'm trying to get at with the on-chain chain as well, is like, there's sort of like an idea behind the product as well. Like, the concept behind it is like, you're also supporting like really well-built NFTs and like really high-end, like, well-designed things within the metaverse, interoperability, like something, so there's sort of like a story and like a narrative behind the product itself. And I think, I'm just using my own launch like as an example, but I feel like that transcends like everything, man. Like you have like, especially in the early days of CryptoVoxels, it sort of got like fragmented when gas skyrocketed. And now I feel like we're sort of getting back to it with Polygon, but there was just such an explosion of like individual like designers and creators, and you've got like 1-out-of-1 designs, and you wear something like that and people ask questions, and you can say like, I got this from so and so, like back in 2020 they only designed like 3 of these things. And the more we're in these virtual environments, I think the more these items and stories and things become important to people. We're just in the early days of history, basically. So it's like, a wearable from like 2 years ago, I guess just doesn't have much significance now. But can you imagine like 10 years from now, like, some of like the original clothing of the metaverse, is still like out there. It's I don't know, man. It's something that I've like thought a lot about, that I feel like is like still very much overlooked, even though people talk about it. The interest doesn't seem to have been there.
I think you hit the nail on the head with the story part, right? Like all of these digital artifacts, these digital items, they have a story with them. Like art, of course, it's like, hey, I remember when I bought that. I remember when I first fell in love with it. But digital wearables take the story and they bring it into this communal fold. Because, just taking our example, back in the day when No Shot, for people that don't know No Shot, co-founder of Async Art, before he even founded that, he was making, first of all, like metaverse games and mazes and puzzles. But he also designed like the first like real fashion forward digital wearable shoe, the VX line. He had multiple drops at the whip, and people would go real time during the whip to go to his virtual storefront and then scoop or try to scoop some of his new kicks that he was releasing. And people that were buying at the same time, like they all have these shared memories with one another. You see other people that are wearing these VX1s or VX2s, like in this very, very early stage that the metaverse is in CryptoVoxels, one metaverse of the whole multiverse. And it's like, you see family, you see the memories, and you have these stories that bind you together. Like the day that we went to the VX2 drop, that's when CryptoVoxels crashed. And there's like one wormhole on the main page of the site that we all had to jump through to get in world to this random build by Horus that we just kind of like linked up with and held the whip. And then we had this crazy ass field trip where we literally walked and flew in line to the VX2 storefront that No Shot had set up. And it's like, that is a potent memory for not just me, but like hundreds of folks that were there flying around in this weird ass fucking line. And it was documented. Like Tubador had this big write up about it. Connie caught the video, like with Paradox and everyone. It's insane. Like the memories and the stories there. And it's still silly early, but like we've had that front row seat to the power here. And it's amazing that you're doubling down on it, creating even more design space for these stories for people to form in this early space to bring and attract more people into it. So I don't know. I just love it, man. I can't wait.
Dude, I appreciate that, man. It's hard to know, like, I can look at the project and feel good about it in the sense that it's exactly what I wanted it to be, right? It's like, fully on-chain wearable. They came out dope, man. I can't wait for people to see them. Is this something people are interested in, especially like the art blocks community? Like, I have no idea. Like, I feel like this is sort of like the roll of the dice. Like, I'm super happy with it. I can't, like, if the project flops, like, I can't be mad at the Sebi or Miguel because, we all did exactly what we set out to do. So now it's like interesting, man. Like, we're sort of in like a weird point in the NFT, like, hype cycle or non-hype cycle, where I feel like if you're not like in with the influencers or like pushing the latest, like, profile picture with utility, then a lot of stuff gets left in the dust. But then you also have like some anomalies that, do stick out. So I don't know, man, hoping to be one of those anomalies that sticks out, but you never really know, man. The climate is weird, but I do feel good about it in the same way that I feel like, win, lose, or draw with Avastars. If the floor bottomed out with that project right now, I feel like I could still hang my hat on it and be like, dude, I was part of launching like a historical project within the space. And, you can talk all you want about like floor prices and price points and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, there's like very few projects I feel like that actually like push the needle forward. Mm-hmm. And I feel like interoperability, like the on-chain chain, like, the name just sounded like so cool. I'm like, how could I not go with that? It's like an on-chain chain, right? But like the interoperability, man, I feel like is something that everybody wants, but that nobody's like paying attention to, or like everybody got away from. And that's like one of the like unfulfilled promises, I feel like, of like crypto and the NFT space, is like we want like the metaverse should be like a truly interoperable metaverse, right? Where we can just take all of our shit everywhere. So, my big picture hope is that this project spurs more this project does well, obviously, but like in doing well, like spurs more projects exploring that territory, which I think is like super consumer friendly. Like, I don't think people really want to have to jump through hoops to have different stuff in like all these different places. In fact, I think it's a barrier to entry, honestly, to like a lot of different places. Like, I don't want to have to like start fresh in like a totally new world just to be able to have like a custom avatar. Like, let me just bring all my shit from the other places so people like recognize me, at least in some capacity, even if it's just like wearing the same chain, at this stage of the game. So I want interoperable shit, man. I feel like that's something that is highly desirable that not a lot of people realize that they want,
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree, man. Like, no one wants to have like multiple closets in every single different virtual world where you need to kind of go in and like, okay, who am I in this world? Like, people have a really strong connection to like their main identity, like in the virtual spaces. It's just that they're not able to take them out. There's been very few instances where that's been possible. For example, you mentioned Jin, aka Dank VR, a while ago. One of the memories that's still seared in my mind is when him, I think Godfrey, Josie, and Cody as well, and maybe a couple other folks that I'm unfortunately forgetting, they hopped into VR chat, and like Josie brought her CryptoVoxels avatar in with her, like with the signature gas mask and all that. I'm like, yes, that's what I want. Like, yeah. I want to bring my CryptoVoxels avatar everywhere. And I mean, an extension of that, and maybe a better way to think about it, would be exactly what you're doing. Like, let's make the accessories interoperable. Like, there's going to be different like avatar, like the base layer, like whatever the human figure or avatar is, that's going to be different. But if you can get all the swag that you like to wear, like in a place where you can have it wherever you go, that's it. I mean, that's so comfortable. You can update that and it'll be the same wherever you go. And it's this like really stupid, simple vector to approach. A lot of people are like, yeah, interoperability and like Fortnite or like any of these AAA game studio projects. And it's like, of course, that's never going to happen. There's these huge corporate apparatuses around them, all these like layers of decision making that, of course, you're going to run into and know eventually. And some engineer being like, oh, that's not even technically possible. And like all this like these bullshit blockades. And you're like, well, fuck it. Let's just work with these open spaces that we already have, create these amazing accessories. Hopefully, number one, we sell out immediately. Worst case, it's like we're waiting for people to really figure out what we're doing, and it's first come, first serve, so it'll eventually sell out. But stimulating other people to create other accessories so we can make that truly interoperable kind of individual taste layer, individual cultural layer for the metaverse, that people kind of like seamlessly interact between these different worlds. I'm excited. We have to have this. It's an inevitability. And amazing that you're able to be the first person to really pursue and go down this path in a meaningful way, because launching a project is hard as hell. takes a lot of time, dedication, commitment, talent to be able to get where you are with this. 100%.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I mean, it's been fun, man. I long before was doing this as a job, was doing this for fun with you, and so this is very much in that spirit. It's a serious project in terms of like what it stands for, but it's like weird as shit, man. Like all the things are like really funny and goofy and like very metaversey in terms of being fun. So yeah, man, I hope people get it. I should probably explain like the way it works, like just like a little bit. So basically you get the NFT, you'll be able to download a file type like directly from the Artblocks website. That will essentially allow you to mint it in most places. And if you can't mint it directly from that file type, there's a bunch of like different file converters that are already out there that'll get it on, it seems like just about everything. Right out of the box, you'll have the .vox model that will get it on like CryptoVoxels, Sandbox, pretty sure NFT World. We're still talking to them to make sure like everything will work, or you might have to do like a conversion, but it'll should convert to Decentraland and like a whole host of like other things that once you convert it, you should be able to mint it wherever you want and bring it wherever you want to any of these places. And so that's the way it'll play out. Very similar to the way that Meebits has made their file types available for people to sort of use them across like different platforms. The chains look dope on the Meebits. We've tested them out on the Meebits. They look cool on the Cyberkongs. So a lot of these projects that don't necessarily have their own universes, can also use them wherever they end up taking their avatars or whatever. So it's weird, man. I feel like we're at an interesting place in like Web3 and the Metaverse where in order to make something like even close to being called like truly interoperable, there's like a whole series of like janky things you have to like provide people with and like build into the back end of things so people can use it in as many places as humanly possible. But that I guess is sort of like the reason, part of the reason behind doing the project is that hopefully we're not always at this crossroads, and there are some sort of like standard file types or standardizations across these platforms where it's not so much of a hurdle for people to create these projects or find these interoperable things out there. So I don't know, man. I hope people get it, but at the end of the day, I feel like I can sleep well, like, putting out something that I believe in, that I think, is important, and, something that whether or not people know they want it, hopefully they figure it out eventually.
Cool. And then like high level details for folks. How many pieces will be in the initial mint? Are you set on like prices? I don't know if you're able to discuss like rarity schedules or traits or anything like that, but some of these high level details could be helpful.
Yeah. I'm not able to discuss rarity levels and traits or anything like that. Everything is randomly generated. There's like a shitload of combinations out there. So we're talking about doing a run of 2,000 total pieces. That could change depending on whether or not we end up on Artblocks Curated or Artblocks Factory. This would be like a very offbeat project for Artblocks Curated. My understanding is with Artblocks Factory, we have like a little bit more control over pricing and number of editions and everything. But to be completely honest with you, man, like I'm 100% deferring to the Artblocks committee and also Sebi, the developer, who's done, half a dozen or more Artblocks projects at this point, in terms of like what they think makes the most sense for like price point and number of editions and everything. And, my job in my head was like coming up with the concept and, getting this out in front of people, just like I'm doing now, and, sort of talking it up and helping explain the importance of it. But in pricing and everything is not my like strong suit. So I'm like, if y'all think you know best, then, I'm willing to trust the experts on this one. But we were originally talking doing like a super limited run, like, 100 or something like that. And, the more people we talked to, the more we were strongly encouraged to do like a pretty significant run. So That makes me feel encouraged, but also more scared, but also encouraged.
That's cool. And then like for any updates, should everyone just follow you on Twitter at NFT Land? Does On-Chain Chain have its own Twitter, socials? Like, how are you thinking about all that?
Yeah. So right now, probably the best way is to just follow me on Twitter. Trust me, I'm not going to shut up about it, especially once it gets closer to time to drop. I'm going to see how this goes, man. I'm not going to create a separate Discord for it right now. I'm not going to create its own Twitter handle. Like I would like to think, not to say that I won't be engaged with like the community or anyone who's like purchased it. The idea is that it's, you know, pretty interoperable right out of the box, but we listen to the community. And if there are other file types that people need us to, you know, figure out a way to convert this thing into, we provide either an additional website or a path forward so people can bring these things anywhere. So I plan on being very involved, but I would really like this to be like a project where like you buy it and the utility is there. Like you don't necessarily need an, you know, ongoing support or ongoing, you know, question and answer, or like even like really an ongoing community beyond like the communities that these would be rolled into. Like I would sort of like these to become part of like the CryptoVoxels community, part of the Sandbox community, part of the, you know, Decentraland community, rather than having like a on-chain community in itself.
Yeah.
You know, some projects need that and like lend itself more to that. But I'd like to think of this as like, you're buying a piece of jewelry, like here's your piece of jewelry, now you can wear it, and that's what it is, you know, type of thing. And it also symbolizes your undying love for like on-chainness and interoperability.
Dude, 100%. That makes sense. All right, man. Well, I mean, all right. Well, we're at that point in the conversation where maybe I'd do a shakedown on you real quick. I haven't shaken your wallet down in a minute. What the hell you been collecting as of late? And like, don't keep it Ethereum specific too. I know you've been collecting some generative work like on Tezos and some other platforms too. So break it open, man. For all the wallets, fucking shake them out.
Yeah, cool. Hang on, man. I'll do this justice. Let me pull open my. So I have been messing around with Tezos. I'm out of Tezos at the moment, and Tezos are sort of like a pain in the ass to get. So I haven't been messing around too much, but I did get obsessed with FX Hash for a minute there. Yeah. I just love generative art, man, which is one of the reasons why I'm like so excited to do this project on Art Blocks, because I'm just such a huge Art Blocks fan of like a lot of the OG Art Blocks. I have Squiggles. I have a bunch of the names are escaping me at the moment. Some of the Low Tide with like the fish, I really like, but I have a lot of the OG like Art Blocks projects and just love generative art. So FX Hash is awesome, but also extremely dangerous to me because there's just so much cool, like affordable generative art on there that you could just like go ham like all day long. Except you can't really, because Tezos is so janky. It like only allows you to do, you know, one purchase per like, you know, 10 minutes. It seems like sometimes.
I hate that. It's just like you're waiting for it to go through. You can't make another follow-up. Right. Purchase until it settles, and it's like, what the hell?
It's probably good. It's probably like a good safeguard for me. So yeah, man, I really like Tezos a lot because I was just talking about this on Twitter Spaces with Rare Candy like a few minutes ago. Like it really has those like old school like NFT community vibes where like the barrier to entry is so low to create NFTs that you get a lot of junk on there, but you also get a lot of like cool experiments that would have never happened on mainnet because you just have to be so calculated with what you're spending your money minted, that like, you know, Tezos really reminds me of like the old like wearable days and like additional and like, you know, some of those times where people were just like minting like, you know, the weirdest things just to like sort of see what sticks and everything. So yeah, man, I got a lot of Tezos art and generative art from them that I scooped up on the cheap. A lot of dude, if anyone knows me, man, I like always double down on my own projects. I own like a lot of my own like few NFTs that I put out over the years. I've been buying up a lot of the fly frogs that are sort of at like a low price point. They're like around mint price still in the secondary market. So I'm a big fan of Josh and Molly, the fly frog team, husband and wife team. And so I'm continuing to sweep the floor on my own fly frogs. It's not really my project, but I help them out as an advisor. So buying frogs, buying flies. I just bought Crypto Bauhaus has a generative art drop on Art Blocks. That's like 0.05 ETH, and it comes with the physical print. So I just got a couple of those the other day, and I got a really dope one, which I'm super excited about. I don't know, man. Dude, if you look at my NFT collection, it's like just full of the weirdest stuff because I just like, I love just sort of scouring like Polygon, Tezos, the low end of the Ethereum art market for like artists who are just starting out and like doing weird things. And so I like being like early on like some of these people's collectors radars. Me, man, finding stuff with like weird eyeballs. I don't know, a little bit of everything, but that's probably the most stuff, man. Like most stuff lately. Every now and again, I get sucked into minting a couple new things of like something, but I haven't done like really well in terms of like hitting the lottery on anything recently that I've minted. So I've honestly learned the hard way. I feel like I got caught up in like the hype cycle like 6 months ago of like minting things that I thought were going to be profitable, and some of them were, and I did fine on them, but some of them weren't, and I'm stuck with like a bunch of ugly ass NFTs that I have to like scroll through periodically, and I'm like, let's not make that mistake again. At least if I'm gonna like buy things, let them be things that I like, that I'm not gonna cringe at when I'm stuck with them or whatever. So I don't know, man. My play with NFTs has always been to just sort of like flip some here and there and like buy more cool stuff that I like. I got a piece of from Mighty Moose, Mighty Moose OG from Cent Days.
Dude, of course.
Yeah, man. I scooped up a piece of his on Super Rare the other day, like at like a ridiculous steal price. So I'm always out bargain shopping as well for cool stuff. But I don't know, man, like to support the people who have been around here for a while. I feel like anyone who's been around, who's like trying to release something, I always try and like buy at least one of their things or whatever. As long as I can stomach looking at it. But most of the people who have been around, I can. Some of the new crappy speculative stuff, I'm just like, I better stay away so I don't get stuck with some of this.
Yeah, best not to get burned. Some of these shit projects coming out.
Dude, let me shake. Can I reverse shakedown in case this doesn't happen again for a little while?
Sure, why not?
There's no rules here, are there?
Yeah, no. Oh, so okay. I guess most of my latest purchases have been like collections that I produced over on Nifty, to be honest. So like Pop Wonder, there's a collection that I produced in February.
Oh yeah.
It came out called Pop Wonderland. For the longest time, I was trying to collect Pop, but all his shit on OpenSea, whether it's his one of ones or like limited editions, like I always miss the drops. And then as soon as they release, they like 100x. And it's like, Jesus, like no way am I going to be able to get any of his pieces at that price. So he put together this like 9-piece series. Each piece of the series, it's its own unique work. But if you put them all together, they form this like bigger picture. I went ham on the ranked auctions in there, which is the middle row, which forms its own like triptych. So that's like one of the things that I'm super, super stoked to collect recently. Lila Worko, he released a couple weeks ago. He has this iconic boombox speaker of his that he custom designed. Like it's not like he went to some asset catalog, 3D asset catalog, and like ripped off a regular like just this basic ass boombox. No, he designed every single knob, dial, antenna, handle on his work. And he had 2 pieces. I went for the 2 edition work, and I got edition number 1, which comes with this like big ass chrome boombox physical sculpture. That's coming to my house.
Oh,
So I'm
shit.
really stoked off of that. Of course, supporting Crypto Spectre, OG friend, Meetup and NFT NYC, John Bergerman, big fan of pizza. There's an Australian fine artist by the name of Paul Malinsky, whose work is, I just think, so sublime and gorgeous. Yeah, I mean, Miss Al Simpson, all day, every day. She's one of the first artists that I've collected. Being able to produce her collections are always dope. Same thing with Brinkman, has a drop coming up. Young and Sick is another artist that just all about the community vibes, putting out amazing art so quickly. Really cool to be able to collect them. Robson, Gary Cartledge, OG, of course.
Yep.
Before he became my coworker, Ikaitsa, aka Havo, aka curating crypto creator, scooped up his work.
Nice.
Yeah, man, a whole bunch of shit, to be honest. Trevor Jones,
Those
Glass
are
Queen, Crypto Cubes. Yeah.
These are all good names, man. I got a bunch of these as well. I picked up a couple derpy burbs I forgot to mention after the whip the other week, which that you just reminded me of talking about NFT NYC.
Yeah. Oh shit! And of course, like the generative OG artist legend Matt King Gazers. That's probably one of the most recent or the last projects that I collected pretty heavily on art blocks back in December.
Arguably my biggest fumble since like CryptoPunks, I feel like, is missing.
No, did you let him go?
Yeah, no, I never got one in the first place. I assumed I was going to be.
What's a miss?
Oh, dude, it wasn't even on my radar because I was assumed I was going to be priced out of it like immediately, and so I didn't even pay attention and then the price actually dipped to the point where it would have been affordable for me, and had just completely missed it at that point.
It dipped to like 0.25 that range, and that's my sweet spot. Anything like 1 ETH or lower, like doesn't matter how much money I have. It's like I just go crazy for those prices, and that's pretty much all I like look at. So scooped a couple, and then the project just kept evolving. I'm like, holy hell, a project that's like literally forever art will constantly be evolving, has all these crazy ass Easter eggs baked in. Matt Cain is just such a master. Such a master.
Myself. Every time I see it, I feel like my Twitter feed's been full of them for like months now. I'm like, God damn it. It's like every time like a new Easter egg pops up, I'm like, motherfucker. Honestly though, like how, I'm glad that, because huge shout out to Matt Cain. I had some thoughts of like doing something along those lines that like had sort of like indefinite like variation or whatever. And then like that came out and I was like, well, thank God I didn't like go down that road. Cause like how the hell do you even like compete with that? I'm glad my project is like also on art blocks, but 100% in a completely different direction than what Matt Cain is doing. But yes, dude, that was one of my big misses. I feel like. I got a couple crypto Stellas recently, though. I feel like Stella Bella has been like all up in the mix of our stuff lately too. So it's cool to have a couple of her things. And she sent me chocolate. I had the one in time where I got the free NFT, and then she sent me chocolate. And some of them had like golden like Wonka tickets in it or whatever, which mine did not. But I got stickers, and the chocolate was actually like really good. Stella's great, man.
Stella's awesome. Big shout out Stella Bell. Like everyone who's in it for the fun, for the weirdness, to create, for the art. Like that's the magic. That the artists in particular, like Stella, that are so close to this like font of creativity that's ever replenishing. I mean, as a non-artist myself, I'm just all about getting as close to the artist as possible, because that's where all the good shit keeps coming and will keep coming. Anyway,
it was really fun to do this project for exactly those reasons, man. Like I don't like, and you've done like similar things, man. And I feel like, would and probably will enjoy doing those things like moving forward as well. Because like, I feel like you know, my quote unquote art is in like my concepts and like my weird ideas, and, you know, need people to execute those visions for it to like all come together. And so it's sort of fun, like being an artist, like by proxy, like knowing that, you know, this project really is my vision from like start to finish. You know, we all worked like very closely together, but it's, you know, 1,000% like my brainchild. And it's cool, man. It's like really fun, sort of like, you know, flexing and like working out the art side of my brain and sort of in terms of like conceptualizing this whole thing and everything. So, but I don't know, man, I guess that's like a long-winded like way of co-signing on what you just said in terms of like getting in close with like some of these really awesome artists and like being able to work like closely with them. It's like a very rewarding experience.
100%, man. Dude, before we go, did we miss anything? Anyone that needs to get shouted out? Anything like that?
Probably, but for the sake of this specific project, I think we got everyone, man. Me, Sebi, Miguel Garest, been working on this thing for a very long time. Snowfro gave us the green light to make this happen, and I'm extremely appreciative of that. Now I'm in contact with Jeff Davis and Sarah, who from Art Blocks, who I'm not like super familiar with, although I might be. Sometimes I know people and I don't know that I know them. But they're now helping me through this next stage of the process, so I really appreciate that. But I don't know, man. I feel very grateful to be able to work in Web3, doing like fun, weird shit with those people, and obviously people like yourself, man. It's great. So yeah, shout out everybody, and including like the whole like Whip community, Metaverse community. Like, who knows where these on-chain chains end up? But it was like very heavily inspired by the people that we interact with every single day, like in the metaverse, and trying to create something that we all would want and use, you know, type of thing. So, yeah, man, a couple of general shout outs, but appreciate this, man, being able to show my thing on my own show, but appreciate you interviewing, man. And dude, honestly, this was fun. Like, you know, this isn't scripted. Like I was saying earlier, we just sort of been, you know, shooting the shit, and you know, feels like old school days, and always love doing that with you, man.
Oh yeah, dude. Amen to everything that you said. Always an honor, always a pleasure, always fucking fun to chat with you, cook things up. Can't wait for the on-chain chain to drop. Everyone else to like, it's going to be a sellout. We're going to make it a sellout. Fuck it. Like, I can't wait to
manifest it.
Yeah. And like, it's going to be a great gift too. If you think about it, like a bigger picture, like, yeah, of course we all want on-chain chains for our own avatars, but like it's about spreading the love and spreading awareness. So hope folks scoop at least two so that they can gift someone that may be naked, flying out there slowly in the metaverse, taking a chapter or a page out of the book that you've been writing, dude. So anyway, man, always an honor. Just keep doing your thing. Keep being you, man, and excited for everything to come.
You know, I appreciate that, man. Just a final thought, like if for those naked avatars out there, you know, now I'm thinking about this, the totem, you know, sort of like the thing that hangs from the chain is probably big enough that you could wear it around your waist, and it could be like almost, you know, just like one of those flap things that like covers your genitals in the front of you. So it could have like multiple.
We solved the pants situation in CryptoVoxels. Shout out to the guys.
So yeah, utility, man, utility. Yo, thank you very much, dude. Until next time.
Peace, man.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to this week's episode. Just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Proof of Beauty. Proof of Beauty is an experimental digital experience studio. The blockchain is their canvas and the tokens are their brush. You can learn more about Proof of Beauty by checking out pob.studio. You can follow them on Twitter as well at PRRF Beauty. That's PRRF Beauty on Twitter, and pob.studio on their homepage to learn more about their projects like Hash, London, and Publico. Thank you, and see you in the next episode.